Alright, so here's my new build for my Miss Valley Ninja deck. This is what I played at ARG Chicago. Unfortunately I scrubbed out, but I feel like this build is a lot better than my previous build. Just compared to the current meta, this deck is more well equipped to handle Cliff Forts in particular. I think it is unfortunately weaker against Shadal's, but Shadal's has been less popular than Burning Abyss and Clifford in my experience so far, at least this format. So I feel like this deck is better considering that. So the core of the deck remains the same. What I did to make this deck actually was I stripped the deck down to the core, and then I added cards back in as I felt were needed. So the cards that I feel are core are Apex Avian, 2 Falcons, 3 Hanzos, 1 Search Target. It doesn't have to be Upstart Golden Ninja, but you need at least 1 Ninja. I consider that to be core. 3 Rhoda, 3 Duality, Soul Charge, 3 Ninja Sword Transformation, 3 Call the Haunted, and then 2 Discard Traps. I think that's the core. And then everything else is added on. Basically, it's either power plays or ways to counter my opponents. That's every other card serves one of those purposes. So with the monsters, I kept the small monster lineup. You can't afford to play much more than this. I think you could bump it up to 11, maybe 12, but you don't want a lot of monsters. Drawing a lot of monsters is bad. So I did cut 1 Falcon. I'm down to 2. The main reason I did this is because I don't really like Falcon against Clifford. And I feel like 2 is usually enough because you can tutor it from your deck with Transformation. So you can still pull off your first turn combo with pulling out Apex Avian and Falcon. The combo I'm talking about is Hanzo plus Transformation plus Call the Haunted. That's like so you transform the Hanzo into Apex Avian, revive it with Call the Haunted, search for your extra ninja, then transform the Hanzo again, because you'll have 2 Call the Haunted because you search 1. You use the second one to bring out the Falcon. So it generates a lot of advantage, and you almost always win when you open that combo. Sometimes I have had both of them get banished when my opponents are playing Dimensional Prison or Karma Cut, something like that. And most people play Bottomless. So if both of them get banished, that kind of sucks. But that's only happened a couple times. And I find that I actually do get less dead draws because I only have 2. And I don't dead draw monsters as often. I'm still playing just 1 Apex Avian. You don't want to draw it, that's pretty obvious. And then I'm playing 3 Hanzo because it's the best monster in the deck still. Everything revolves around this. And then I'm playing 2 Upstart Golden Ninjas. I feel like Exceed Summoning is really good right now. Shadal's aren't as popular, and that was the main reason why you wanted to avoid Exceed Summoning. And Exceed Summoning is really good against Cliffords, so Upstart is really good right now. I've actually started using its effect to discard a trap and special summon Hanzo. Before, when I used it, I just used it. The main thing I did was I would use Call the Haunted to bring back Hanzo, search for Upstart Golden Ninja, normal summon it on my turn, and then make a rank 4. It's basically using Call the Haunted to make a rank 4. I still do that play a lot, but in addition to that, I actually use Upstart's effect now. I think Upstart's effect is good. It was bad before Clifford's came out, but at this point, it can be worth it. You have to approach it on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes it's not worth it. And the best thing about Golden Ninja is I can play BLS now. So yes, I'm only playing 3 Darks and 2 Lights in my main deck, but this is live pretty much every game. You get to Hanzo really, really, really easily. The deck is designed to get to Hanzo, and it's tough to win if you don't. You have 3 Rhoda, 3 Hanzo, and you usually Duality for Hanzo if you don't get one of these. So you get Hanzo really easily, and as soon as you get Hanzo, you get Upstart Golden Ninja, because all you have to do to search this is special summon Hanzo. You can also go the opposite way. If you just open with this, you can use its effect to get a Hanzo from your deck, and then you have both attributes. So BLS is live basically every time you draw it. And BLS is broken, so you want to play broken cards. BLS is way too good. And I'm still playing the One Mermello. I like having the MST on legs. It doesn't come up like super often, but it comes up. And it's a nice thing to have, pretty much. It works really well with the Call the Haunteds. And then spell lineup, I buffed it out a little bit from my last build. The new addition being one Magic Planner. So the idea here is I cut Falcon down to 2, and I need a way to take advantage of my floating continuous traps. So that's what Magic Planner is. I'm not playing more than one Magic Planner because it's a terrible dead draw, and early game it does nothing for you. You don't want to have more than one in your hand at a time usually, so just one. And I like it. Usually it works like a pot of greed, so it's pretty good. If you find you need space, this is definitely something you could cut, but you might have a little bit of issues clogging up your back row if you're only playing 2 Falcons and no other way to clear out your back row. As far as the other spells, I've already said these are core. They're really obvious in this deck. MST, I really hate it, but you need it against Clifforts. I feel like it's bad in almost every other matchup, though. I like citing it out for full houses. I feel like full house does a better job against most things. And Wiretap is straight up better than MST unless you're playing against Clifford. But yeah, you need this against Clifford. You don't have much of a chance, honestly, if you don't have this. Just because skill drain and scout. So yeah, soul charge obvious. It's insane in this deck. In particular, it's really good. And then Regeki, I feel like is borderline whether or not you should play it, but it is pretty good. I like it against Clifforts. It can create pressure against pretty much every deck. It's like a momentum swinger, basically. You can clear off your opponent's board and attack. The fact that you can have monsters on the board and use this is actually very relevant, and it definitely makes this better than Dark Hole. The best use I've made of that was once I was playing against Burning Abyss, so I used Upstart Golden Ninja to make an Abyss Dweller, and then I used its effect, and then I Regeki'd. And so if I had Dark Hole, I would have killed my own Abyss Dweller, but since it was Regeki, I didn't. So things like that come up, and that was obviously the difference maker because my opponent an entire field of floating monsters and didn't get any of their effects. The traps, I had to pare down a little bit. It's down to 18. The biggest one that's losing out here is Fiendish. I had to cut that down to 1. I feel like that's problematic, actually. In my testing, I felt like I needed at least 2 Fiendish. The main thing that Fiendish does for you is it stops your opponent's monsters from attacking. That's actually more relevant, in my opinion, than the fact that it can negate effects. But the fact that it can do both adds a lot of value. It has like dual value in that sense, where it can fill 2 roles. So I feel like you kind of need 2 Fiendish chains. So that's a change that I think has to be made, bumping this back up to 2. I've already mentioned that Call the Haunted and Transformation are core. You need to max out both of these. Transformation, because you want to get your +1s with your Hanzo searches, and having extra transformations is pretty much always good. The only time it's not good, sometimes you'll brick, you won't have Hanzo and you'll have transformation, and that really hurts. That's the main problem with this deck. Occasionally you'll brick. Drawing this without Hanzo is a brick. Drawing this ever is a brick. Drawing this can be a brick, and if you draw both of them, that's always a brick. This can be a brick draw. That's it for the most part. The other cards are usually not dead, but the problem is when you draw a lot of dead cards together. That doesn't happen too often. You have a lot of consistency boosters like Duality and Rhoda, so usually you're pretty good with consistency, but you can dead draw. So I felt like Call of the Haunted was such a core card to my deck that I wanted to run more than 3. So I'm running Oasis of Dragon Souls. This is basically a worse Call of the Haunted in the deck. So it summons in defense. That can be better, but generally it's worse. Call the Haunted allows you to summon something in the battle phase and attack. I think that's better in most cases. This one allows you to block your life points better, but you don't want to be doing that usually. That's kind of a waste of a monster, just summoning it to die in defense mode. Also, your monsters, for the most part, have less defense. This has only 2,000 defense, so you want to summon this in attack mode, usually. Also, this changes it to a worm. That's not usually relevant. It prevents you from going into Excalibur. And then the most relevant downside, when the card you special summon with this leaves the field, this destroys itself. So that it doesn't float. That's not good. You want to be able to reuse your Call the Haunted with Falcon or trade them in for a Magic Planner. You can't really do that with this. The way you can get around that is if you use your monster for an Exceed summon, this card stays in the field. So you can use that to get around that. But it's definitely worth it. Extra Call the Haunted is great. Bringing back Hanzo is really good because it's just easy rank 4 plays basically. I'm playing 3 Vanities still. I toyed around with only playing 2 because I feel like this is terrible against Clifford. But when I was playing only 2, I felt like the game 1 against Burning Abyss and Shaddolls was too difficult of a match. This is your best bet against those 2 decks, game 1. Because the best way to beat them with this deck is to floodgate them with either Vanities, Macro Soul Drain, or Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. And so game 1, this is your go-to card against them. And it has some value in the Clifford matchup. You can try to block the Pendulum Summons with it. It's not too bad. You can also just use it with Upstart as a discard. I'm playing the Warning and Bottomless. They're the best summon response traps currently. They're good against basically everything. This stops Denko Seka. That's very relevant right now, in the Shadow matchup in particular. 2 Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. I cut this down from 3. I don't know if I like it at 2 or 3. It's hard to say. So some games you have trouble getting your Apex Avian on the board, and then Phoenix Wing Wind Blast isn't that great because you have to discard something you'd rather not discard. Other games you summon this turn 1 and then have to negate something immediately, and then you really want Phoenix Wind Blast to discard it from your hand. So I feel like 2 is a good compromise between drawing it all the time and drawing it not enough. And there's also space issues in the deck at the moment, preventing me from playing 3. So I'm going to stick with 2 for now. It's a really good trap still, but it's not as good. It's easier for the Shaddolls and Burning Abyss to play around it. Shaddolls can use El Shaddol Fusion to play around it, and Burning Abyss could potentially Fire Lake to get around it if they have 2 on board. And it's also not super good against Clifford. It's still solid against every matchup. You're going to find a use for Phoenix Wind Blast in every matchup because you can use it on spells, traps, and monsters. Wiretap I bumped up to 3 because Wiretap is amazing. It's the best way of getting rid of your opponent's trap cards, basically. I really like how you can just react to your opponent's plays, basically. So, like, MST, unless it's a continuous card, you have to preemptively hit their card. So if you're making the right reads, you can hit good cards, but sometimes your opponents are playing tough to read. They're playing their cards in a way in which it's not obvious where the warning is set or whatever. And in those cases, you can just chain Wiretap the warning, and then you stop warning. And it's really good, way better than MST, except against Cliffords. But even against Cliffords, this is really good at stopping their own wiretaps and their own trap stuns. They usually at least side deck them. And obviously this can hit skill drain and vanities, but it's not better at hitting them than MST is. MST is, you can use it from your hand, so MST is better against those. So that's the main deck. After ARG Chicago, I did tweak it a little bit. So this is the build I played at ARG Chicago, and here is the tweaked build. So I changed a little bit in the main side and extra. So right now, since I'm talking about the main, I'll just talk about the main. I bumped Fiendish up to 2 because I feel like I really needed it at 2. And I'm trying Vanities at 2 again. I don't really feel like I can actually afford to cut anything else to make space. So I kind of want to play 3 Vanities, but I'm trying it out this way to see if this works. So we'll see. I feel like the best option might be to bump this back up to 3 and cut something else, but I'll need more testing to decide what that would be. Moving on to the side deck. So I sided a lot of the same cards that I was siding before. DD Warrior Lady for Shadal's mainly, but you can side this in against pretty much anything. It's removal that doesn't destroy target. And then I'm siding Dark Samor plus 3 anti-spell fragrance. So I bumped this up to 3. This is insane against Cliffords. They can't play Scout, and they can't win, basically, if you have this on board. They need to draw an MST as an out. Most of their decks don't actually play any other outs besides MST. For the most part, with Spell Trap Destruction, they just focus on Cliffords, so they play Spell Shattering Arrow to destroy their opponent's Scouts, basically, and that doesn't hit this because this is a trap. So a lot of the times drawing this by itself is enough to win against Cliffords. And then I play Simorg to go along with it. I hate Simorg when I'm going second. I feel like it does nothing. So I actually only side this in when I'm going in first, so I can set up the lock. I only side this in alongside Anti-Spell Fragrance or against decks that set a lot. Like I sided this in against Gravekeepers once. Decks like that, I'll side this in against. I feel like this is actually a really weak card, but the auto win that it enables is worth siding it just because of that. I am citing 1 Book of Moon. This is a new edition. This is for Burning Abyss. It's actually really good against them because you can turn one of their monsters face down and the other ones will self-destruct. This is just a generic card. I can cite it against anything else. But I feel like there are better options against Burning Abyss. I kind of didn't really have anything else I really wanted to side for the tournament, so I threw this in. And I'm citing 2 Full House. It's insane. You just win games by playing this. The main matchups are Clifford and Satellar Knight. I am citing 1 Starlight Road. This is another new edition. This one is for the Burning Abyss matchup. This is obviously a counter to Fire Lake, and they also side a Fairy Wind usually. So this has a lot of cards that it hits in that matchup. I have yet to actually resolve it in that matchup. The one time they managed to pull a Fire Lake off of me, I didn't have it. And every other time I played Burning Abyss, since I added this in, they have not resolved the Fire Lake on me. I've been pretty good at stopping them from getting Fire Lakes off. I'm still citing 1 Cabals. The main decks are Shadal, Burning Abyss. The reason this isn't in the main is because Clifford is a thing, and this is bad against Cliffords. The last new card I added to the side deck is Cast Trap Hole. This is an out to Denko Seka. So it's one of the few outs to him, and I really like it because of that. It's basically like playing an extra Solemn Warning. I put this in against Chaos variants of Shadal's, ones that don't play the artifacts. The artifact variants usually don't play Denko Seka. This isn't as effective against them. And I also side this in against Satellar Knights and Burning Abyss. So it has a lot of utility against a lot of the top matchups, just because so many of them are light and dark. And then I'm playing the 4 Floodgate cards that I have been. They're just really good. These are the best way of beating Shadal's and Burning Abyss. And then for my changes, so the one change that I did was I put a 7 Tools of Bandit in because I felt like I really needed 4 wiretaps. So I cut Book of Moon for this, and I think it's probably worth it. I haven't tested it out yet. The main matchup I want this in against is the Teller Knights. I've been playing against a lot of that recently, though. So this is a worse wiretap, basically. So I can play, and against the Teller Knights in particular, I can play 4 wiretaps, 2 full house, and 0 MSD. I'm not going to play MSD against that deck. And then down on the extra deck is mostly the same. The one difference is I cut Zephyros for Stardust Dragon. Obviously, I needed it to play Stardust if I'm playing Starlight Road, and Zephyros is really not relevant in this deck with only 2 Falcons. The odds of summoning it are really low. I do want to mention that this build goes into the extra deck a lot more than my previous builds did. Upping Upstart Golden Ninja to 2 makes a big difference in that respect. Before, I would go into the extra deck like once per match. Now it's more like once per game, so like 2 or 3 times per match. So it's actually a lot more frequent. And I did resort them in terms of how often I use them. The one that's bumped up a lot is Ragnar Zero, just because it's so good against Glyph. The ones that you definitely need are the ones starting Crazy Box and up. I don't feel like I really need to explain these, other than to say that you do need to play these ones here. And also, I want to mention that I did make one change. So, I cut the Starlight Road in the side to put the Vanity's Emptiness in the side from the main. And so I had to cut the Stardust, and I put a Gandaiva in place of it. I found myself constantly needing Gandaiva at the ARG tournament. There was like 2 times where I wanted to summon it. So I didn't actually have it before the tournament, so I kind of wanted to put it in before the tournament, but I didn't have the option to. So I do have it now, and it is in my extra deck. I haven't made it yet, but I feel like you should probably play it with the 2 upstarts in the main deck. I would actually rather have this than these ones here in the less used group. I still have it at the bottom because I had yet to summon it. As soon as I summon it, though, it'll probably move up to here, because I haven't summoned either of these in a while, and I've summoned each of them once ever. So this is my current build of the Miss Valley Ninjas. It's pretty much the build I took to ARG Chicago. I feel like it's really close to being optimal for this format. The thing, though, is that there's not really very many events in my area during the rest of this format. I think the rest of this format, I want to focus on testing out other variants of ninjas to see if any of them are better than my traditional build that I've been running since like this summer. I mean, the new variants I want to try out could be worse, they could be better, but I have to try them out to see. The first one that I want to try out, I'll give you a little teaser here for what I'm thinking. So the first one I want to try out is actually a tribute deck. So you would play Red Dragon Ninja. This is basically like Ryza. It's a little bit different. So you have to banish a ninja or ninjutsu art in your grave to activate its effect. And it can only spin set cards, but your opponent can't chain that set card to Red Dragon Ninja's effect. And you also get to see it and choose the top or the bottom of the deck. This variant I've actually tested out a little bit, and Red Dragon Ninja has been insane. Basically, you can just search it really easy from Hanzo, and then you combo Red Dragon Ninja, obviously, with the Monarch Stormforth. So, there it is. So, basically, you can take out 2 of your opponent's cards just by summoning one of your monsters. You tribute one of your opponent's monsters, and then you like take out a back row, basically. And it's been really good. I've played like 5 matches or so. And then the other card that I would be playing in that build is Vanity's Fiend for the lockdown factor. So that's Tribute Ninjas. And then the other variant that I was thinking about was one that uses Thunderlord. So the problem with Thunderlord is he's difficult to make. So he's a level 7 synchro, and the non-tuner monster has to be Mist Valley. So basically Falcon is your only option. So, but the thing with Thunderlord is he has a quick effect, and you get to bounce one of your cards back to your hand to boost them up to 3100 attack. So that means your turn and your opponent's turn, you can be sending your continuous Call the Haunted and your Fiendish Chains back to your hand. So this card is just massive pluses. I feel like it'll be less consistent. It doesn't seem like it'll be very easy to summon him, but I want to try to see if I can get him to work, because his effect is just insane. And then the last variant that I'm thinking about, whoops, this one's not actually out yet until the end of January, but I would use Mask Change 2nd to turn Hanzo into Dark Law, which is obviously really good. And I would have Apex Avian in hand usually for the discard for Mask Change 2nd. And also all of the new masked heroes actually. So they have a Dark one, Hanzo. They have a Wind one, Falcon, and then they have a Light one, Upstart. So it's perfect for the ninja deck. So I want to try that out too. So those are my 3 ideas for different ninja variants that I want to try out. Oh yes, and one other thing, I want to try out something new with my windups. The one card I want to try out, Draw Muscle. So you target a defense position monster with 1000 or less defense, and then you draw 1 card, and then that monster can't be destroyed by battle this turn. That's a bonus really. The main thing is that it draws you a card, and this works with Rabbit and Rat. And in theory, it should be really easy to get off, honestly, because Rabbit has amazing survivability. On it, your second, so you'll just summon it, you'll bounce it to keep it alive, and then on your next turn after it comes back, you just switch it to defense, and it's in defense, and you can draw a card. And then Rat is even easier. It just switches itself into defense immediately when you use its effect. So I want to try out Draw Muscle and Windups. I feel like that could work well. Also, the fact that Shaddoll's are less popular is a good thing for windups. That should help them. So I have a lot of things I want to try out. Hopefully those will work out, and I'll be able to bring you deck profiles of those new ideas once I get them, all the kinks and stuff worked out. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to check out some other stuff.